The Demonic Sect, Heavenly Sound Sect. Underneath emotion-severing cliff, a river flowed gently through the mountains and forests. The river surface was clear and calm, shimmering with sunlight. Bang! A dull thud came from the shore, emanating from a small wooden cabin. The cabin had 2 stories and was surrounded by a fence. Some spirit medicine grew inside the fence, and a faint herbal fragrance spread outward. Second floor. Jiang Hao was tossed aside, hitting the wall. A stunning woman dressed in sheer silk instantly appeared beside him, placing a long sword against his neck. The blade sliced through his skin, and crimson blood slowly seeped out. At that moment, Jiang Hao felt death was only a step away, an undeserved calamity. Last night, after he finished trimming the spirit medicine and was about to cultivate, a woman suddenly descended from the sky, her face flushed and her blood chi in turmoil. This woman had an elegant figure and peerless beauty, but her consciousness was unclear. She was likely poisoned or suffering from chi deviation due to cultivation. He had no intention of helping, but the opponent's cultivation was unfathomable. She forcibly controlled him, brought him to the second floor, and committed the act. It was his first time experiencing such a thing. The sensation was good, but unfortunately, he was in a passive state. Her beauty was flawless, truly perfect. It would have been even better if the gaze she woke up with hadn't contained murderous intent. Early in the morning, she recovered her senses and raised her sword against him, which led to the current situation. Now, Jiang Hao could see humiliation in her cold eyes, suggesting she remembered what happened last night. She seemed to be hesitating about whether to strike a fatal blow. Senior, perhaps there has been some misunderstanding between us. Jiang Hao felt he needed to say something, even though he didn't know what the misunderstanding was. Are you a disciple of the Heavenly Sound Sect? The woman asked coldly. With the sword at his throat, Jiang Hao could only speak hoarsely. Yes. Eat this. The woman took out a medicinal pill and handed it over, saying expressionlessly, What is this? Jiang Hao subconsciously asked. Bang. A long leg kicked Jiang Hao in the stomach, causing him to cry out in pain and open his mouth wide, allowing the medicinal pill to fall in. Seeing this, the woman grabbed the clothes she had shed, enveloped herself in a pink mist, and vanished out the window. Confirming her departure, Jiang Hao let out a heavy sigh. He touched his neck and only began to think once he saw the wound had scabbed over. Her arrival must have been an accident, but the murderous intent was real. I almost used my only substitute death opportunity. This woman is ridiculously strong. He walked onto the balcony, looked around, and felt lingering fear. Although this woman was peerlessly beautiful and had slept with him, making the rice does not work well in the world of cultivation immortals, especially not in the demonic sect. A moment of carelessness could lead to being poisoned or killed due to ignorance. The world during peacetime is better. Jiang Hao shook his head and sighed. He transmigrated 19 years ago, from birth to being kicked out of his home, and then secretly sold to the demonic sect by his stepmother. His early years were difficult. If he hadn't possessed the cultivation physique and encountered the demonic sect recruiting, he might have already been sacrificed and become a ghost. If he could choose, he would want to join a renowned righteous sect. For example, the vast Heaven sect, known as the strongest immortal sect. Unfortunately, he didn't have that luck and could only cling to life in the demonic sect. Fortunately, after he began to cultivate, slight changes appeared in his body. He gained something extra. Jiang Hao concentrated his spirit and saw the panel that others could not see. Name, Jiang Hao. Age, 19. Cultivation, Qi refining layer 9. Cultivation technique, Tianyin 100 revolutions. Divine ability, 9 revolutions death substitution, unique. Daily appraisal locked. Blood Qi, 100 of 100, cultivatable. Cultivation, 100 of 100, cultivatable. Divine ability, 1 of 3, cannot be obtained. Seeing this, he let out a long breath. The blood chi, cultivation, and divine ability fragments were accumulated over time. Planting spirit medicine, clearing out Yao beasts, and wandering around, all allowed him to pick up bubbles and gain these things. Not only blood chi and cultivation, but also some magic treasures and cultivation aids. However, accumulating blood chi and cultivation to 100 was not easy. It took him several years to accumulate 100 for the second time. The first time made his body tough and raised his cultivation from chi refining layer 3 to chi refining layer 8. Fortunately, he could assimilate it bit by bit, otherwise it would have been too conspicuous. Because of this, he went from being an outer sect disciple to an inner sect disciple. At emotion-severing cliff, he guarded the spirit medicine garden. Moving around the sect was also much easier. Here, it was better to have fast cultivation progress than to pretend to be ordinary. The demonic sect, a moment of carelessness could lead to being killed by a fellow disciple for some frivolous reason, or even losing one's innocence. Last night was the strongest proof. Divine abilities are different from blood chi and cultivation. Blood chi and cultivation can be cultivated as long as they reach 10, but divine abilities require 3 fragments to obtain a complete divine ability. So far, he has only obtained 1 divine ability, daily appraisal. 9 revolutions death substitution is an innate divine ability. A moment later, he returned to the room, stared at the crimson stain on the sheets, sighed heavily, and decided to change them. The reason he managed to escape this ordeal might have something to do with those bloodstains. I don't know who she is. I hope she's not a person from the Heavenly Sound Sect. Otherwise, if she gets angry and comes back to kill me, that would be terrible. To be used and then killed, the one suffering the loss would ultimately be him. He felt ashamed for failing to protect himself. After tidying up the bedding, Jiang Hao left his residence and headed to the spirit medicine garden to tend to the dwanqing grass. When he returns tonight, He will attempt to break through to foundation establishment. When blood chi and cultivation reach 100, the conversion rate is different from when it is 10. I also need to find time to go to the library pavilion to check what kind of medicine that woman fed me. Along the way, Jiang Hao pondered his subsequent plans. This woman's appearance was unusual. I need to be more vigilant lately. The Heavenly Sound Sect is a first-rate sect. The probability of being attacked and conquered by a renowned righteous sect is low, but he still must be cautious. Heavenly Sound Sect. 100 Flowers Lake. Located at the highest point of the Heavenly Sound Sect, it was like a celestial pond. Flowers bloomed in profusion along the lakeside. The water was clear and calm, with spirit beasts occasionally surfacing and causing ripples. An island stood in the center, surrounded by flowers in full bloom that accentuated a crimson flower pavilion. At this moment, a woman in red beneath the pavilion frowned slightly, her eyes filled with coldness. She lightly touched the front of her body, and a hint of disgust flickered in her gaze. A gentle breeze wafted through the flowers. A delicate and beautiful woman in white landed before the pavilion, speaking to the woman inside with a mix of surprise and respect. Sect leader, you have come out of seclusion? The woman in red shifted slightly to look behind her. Her exquisite face met the eyes of the woman in white, but the coldness in her gaze made the latter bow her head in fear. Bai Ji, has no one remembered the Heavenly Sound Sect in recent years? Hong Yuye, the sect leader of the demonic Heavenly Sound Sect. Before she took power, the Heavenly Sound Sect was merely a second-rate sect. It was because of her that it leaped to become a first-rate sect. On her first day as the sect leader of the Heavenly Sound Sect, she launched a massive war, subduing all the scattered surrounding forces in one fell swoop. The war lasted for 30 years, and rivers of blood flowed. For 30 years, the Heavenly Sound Sect grew stronger with every battle, acquiring increasingly vast resources, and the name of the Heavenly Sound Demoness resonated far and wide. After the war ended, Hong Yuye began managing the sect. In just 10 years, she balanced everything, putting the sect on the right track and allowing the Demonic Sect to operate on its own. After that, she entered seclusion, which lasted for 60 years. Please enlighten me, sect leader, Bai Ji said, kneeling in trepidation. Bai Ji, one of the 4 protector elders of the Heavenly Sound Sect, was deeply trusted by the Heavenly Sound Demoness and acted as the sect's temporary leader. If the Heavenly Sound Sect's reputation had faded in recent years, it would be her fault for her inaction while in charge. How could she not be terrified? Hong Yuye stared at Bai Ji expressionlessly, saying nothing. Aside from the sound of the wind, there was only Bai Ji's unsteady breathing. After a while, Hong Yuye slowly withdrew her gaze. She had been in seclusion for 60 years, and everything should have gone smoothly, but at the critical moment, she was ambushed. It wasn't someone from the demonic path. The attacker practiced the 3 purities art of Mount Tianqing, and their methods were despicable. In particular, that woman had hidden other toxins within her body. Once killed, the toxins would invade everything nearby, making them impossible to guard against. With the toxin invasion and her chi deviation, finally, she went to the bottom of the nearby emotion-severing cliff. That was how last night's events happened. Those were methods she couldn't defend against, something Mount Tianqing shouldn't possess. Have there been any unusual movements from those prestigious sects lately? Hong Yuye asked, her elegance carrying an air of majesty. No, Bai Ji quickly shook her head and continued. Mount Tianqing is the closest righteous sect to us, but they've been busy with the Tao Discourse Assembly lately and have no energy for anything else. Not to mention, you fought them years ago, sect leader. With their strength, they wouldn't dare act recklessly. Is that so? Hong Yuye smiled meaningfully. Seeing that Bai Ji didn't dare to speak, she continued. Keep the matter of my emergence from seclusion a secret for now. You will continue to manage the Heavenly Sound Sect. Then, investigate the sect's disciples to see how many spies from other sects there are. Yes? Bai Ji quickly complied, not daring to ask more. After another silence, Hong Yuye suddenly asked, Bai Ji, you aren't a spy sent by another sect, are you? Bai Ji kowtowed heavily, her head hitting the ground in extreme terror. Sect leader, how could Bai Ji dare, and how could I be? Hong Yuye looked down at Bai Ji for a long time before nodding and saying softly, you may leave. Bai Ji rose tremblingly. Just as she turned around, she heard the sect leader's voice again. By the way, organize the sect's records and highlight the arrangements from recent years. I want to see what you've been doing. Yes. Bai Ji withdrew from the island. Once Bai Ji had left, Hong Yuye gently raised her hand, pressing the back of it against her lips as she coughed twice. 60 years ago, she trusted Bai Ji, and 60 years later, she still did. However, only Bai Ji knew where she was in seclusion. Her first thought after being ambushed was that Bai Ji had betrayed her. It was just that, so far, in her judgment, she still felt Bai Ji was reliable. Hong Yuye then slowly closed her eyes, and the surroundings fell into a momentary silence. Emotion-severing cliff. Spirit Medicine Garden. Jiang Hao made his way to the entrance of the Spirit Medicine Garden, intending to go inside and collect some panel bubbles. They could increase his strength. This place was quite a distance from his residence and was considered a central location. Emotion-severing cliff was like a valley, with a stream flowing out from a corner, so Jiang Hao's residence was tucked away in a corner. It was quiet and free. The Spirit Medicine Garden was covered by a formation, and the entrance was guarded by 2 outer sect disciples. They were 2 disciples at the 5th level of Qi refining, which was quite decent. If one could reach the 8th level of Qi refining before the age of 20, they could enter the inner sect. He was one such person. One could only secure their status as an inner sect disciple after reaching foundation establishment. If one still hadn't reached it by age 40 while holding that status, it was best to take a mission and head outside. Otherwise, they would be despised by their peers and ostracized by the sect. Their cultivation resources would be snatched away, and they would never have a chance to rise again. A few years ago, he had seen it happen once. Back then, when he had just entered the inner sect and was collecting resources, he saw a 40-year-old at the 9th level of chi refining being ridiculed and having his resources stolen. Out of a naive kindness, he had given the man a medicinal pill when no one was around. It startled the man so much that he questioned his life. He never saw that person again after that. He heard the man took a mission and went outside. He had likely died out there. Senior brother Jiang. The two guarding disciples lowered their heads to greet him. Nodding in acknowledgement, Jiang Hao stepped inside. The spirit medicine garden's fields were vast, with many spirit medicine plants around, and at the very center grew a bright red 9-leaf flower. This flower is called deviation grass. Its fragrance is not apparent under normal conditions, but it spreads once the petals fall. The fragrance is filled with spiritual chi and can cause people to fall into illusions, trapped by emotions. It can be refined into the main ingredient for 3 types of medicinal pill. The first is the spirit gathering pill, which, when consumed, allows for rapid absorption of surrounding spiritual chi to accelerate cultivation and is easy to refine. The second is the deviation pill. Smelling it can suppress heart demon. Placing one during a breakthrough can increase the success rate by 20%, though it is difficult to refine. The third is blissful world. Consuming it drags a person into an endless illusion. Successfully emerging leads to a great increase in cultivation, while failure leads to death and the dissipation of Tao. After reviewing the effects of the deviation grass, Jiang Hao looked toward the simple pavilion in the center. That was where he needed to go. As a newly promoted inner sect disciple, the guarding duty naturally fell to him. Unlike the guards, his main job was to check if the spirit medicine was normal, and he didn't need to stay there at night. Some senior brothers and senior sisters would occasionally come to guard at night. Passing by the spirit medicine field, Jiang Hao saw some small bubbles in his eyes. Most were white bubbles, with only one green bubble, and they floated above the spirit medicine. When he passed by, these bubbles would automatically merge into Jiang Hao's body. At this moment, the panel would show a prompt. Strength +1, Stamina +1, Strength +1, Spirit +1, Spirit Gathering Pill +1. Jiang Hao's expression remained unchanged. He had experienced this situation countless times. This was also why he was eager to become an inner sect disciple. Only by going to more places could he obtain more things. For example, in this spirit medicine garden, as long as he helped with the planting, he could continuously obtain them. Strength and stamina were not in the panel. They could be absorbed automatically. Among those of the same rank, his strength was far superior to others. Perhaps one day, a single punch would be enough to crush someone of the same rank. I need a cultivation technique or divine ability to conceal my cultivation. Without being able to conceal his cultivation, he dared not advance too quickly, as it would be easy to be targeted. The bubbles were categorized by color, with different colors representing the quality of the items. After summarizing, they were roughly white, green, blue, and purple. White was the most common, being some strength, stamina, and similar things that could be directly absorbed. Green was some ordinary medicinal pill and magic treasure. Blood chi and cultivation were in blue, and divine ability was in purple. Anything above that, he had not seen yet. Below the pavilion, a fairy was waiting. Seeing Jiang Hao approach, she revealed a smile, naturally charming. The Heavenly Sound Sect has 12 main veins, and emotion-severing cliff is one of them, while the woman before him was the inner sect disciple of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, Fairy Yunruo. With her natural charm and the influence of her cultivation technique, she always made people have unusual thoughts. The demonic path is not like the righteous sects. Such people rarely hide their charm. Every time he encountered someone from the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, Jiang Hao found it quite troublesome. However, why did he not feel anything strange today? Had his spirit become stronger? Jiang Hao was quite surprised internally, but he did not show it, instead saying respectfully, "Greetings, senior sister Yunruo." Fairy Yunruo smiled and said, "I heard junior brother is about to reach foundation establishment. To reach foundation establishment at 20 is truly remarkable. Just a bit of luck." Jiang Hao dared not be arrogant, but seeing such a beautiful and charming senior sister, his heart was too calm, and he immediately felt something was wrong. Was the woman in front of him less charming, or was there something wrong with himself? Fairy Yunruo smiled and whispered, "I heard that junior brother is an upright person. If you were to join other righteous great sects, you would surely be heavily cultivated. She thinks I am a good person?" Hearing this, Jiang Hao became vigilant, not understanding why the other party would say such a thing, and immediately said, "Is senior sister here for the spirit medicine this time?" "That is indeed the case, but I mainly came to congratulate junior brother. I think you will be able to promote to foundation establishment in a year or two." Fairy Yunruo leaned closer to Jiang Hao, smiling happily. "Senior sister is too kind. I will find someone to prepare the spirit medicine right away." After taking the list and confirming there were no issues, Jiang Hao turned and left. Just now, the senior sister was exuding charm. If not for his strange condition today, it would be hard to say whether he could have remained this sober. A moment later, he handed the spirit medicine to her. "Thank you, junior brother, then I won't disturb you today," Fairy Yunruo said with a smile. "Senior sister is too polite." Jiang Hao returned the smile, but in his heart, he thought, "It would be best if you didn't disturb me in the future either." At this moment, Fairy Yunruo stepped away, but after walking 2 steps, she retreated to Jiang Hao's side, her delicate voice ringing in his ear. Junior brother, if you were given a chance to join a righteous great sect, would you seize it? Hearing this, Jiang Hao was shocked and looked at Fairy Yunruo in terror. Fairy Yunruo covered her mouth with a laugh, and after a moment, she said faintly, "Look at how scared Junior brother is. This is a tactic used by some so-called righteous sect disciples. They often use us demonic path disciples like this. They won't really give you a chance. Junior brother, you must be careful. Don't be deceived. You must understand." After speaking, Fairy Yunruo floated away. What does she mean? Does it mean if I understand, I can join? Or is it saying? Suddenly, Jiang Hao felt that this senior sister was slightly dangerous. It looked like a joke, but it could also be a way of telling the truth. If she really is an undercover agent from another sect, then have I been targeted? Does she want to pull me in to help? No. It is also possible that I am suspected by the sect and am being tested. If it is the former, senior sister Yunruo is in the Foundation establishment early stage. Once she speaks, I only have two choices. 1. Refuse, and the other party kills me to silence me. 2. Agree. Is this not putting myself in fire and water? It is better to continue being a demonic path disciple. No, I must reach Foundation establishment first. Evening. Jiang Hao's figure moved in and out of the spirit medicine garden. Only after confirming there were no issues did he take his leave. Normally, he would participate in processing the spirit medicines. Otherwise, very few bubbles would drop the next day. When he didn't enter the spirit medicine garden, he relied on luck to pick up bubbles. It was also because of this that it took several years to accumulate a full 100 points of blood chi and cultivation. It was only after becoming an inner sect disciple that he occasionally touched upon divine abilities. It seemed the better the spirit medicine he encountered, the easier it was to pick up good bubbles. Returning to his residence, Jiang Hao carefully observed his surroundings. After confirming there were no extra people, he entered his cultivation room to begin cultivating. Senior sister Yunruo's appearance today gave him an inexplicable sense of crisis. It was never wrong to be a bit more vigilant. Sitting down cross-legged, Jiang Hao simultaneously tapped on his blood chi and cultivation. When he first entered the sect, he had been tested. His talent was above average. Under normal cultivation, he had hope of reaching Foundation establishment in his 30s or 40s. Now he was 20 years old, quite a bit earlier. There should be a certain bottleneck. Using both together would make the breakthrough smoother. A short while later, Jiang Hao's eyes revealed a look of pain. Blood chi churned within his body, and spiritual chi surged. Tianyin 100 revolutions was operating frantically, absorbing the blood chi and spiritual chi. A sound of transformation emanated from Jiang Hao's body. His physical body, flesh, blood, and bones were undergoing 1,000 hammers and 100 refinements. If he could endure it, he would successfully reach Foundation establishment. The transformation was maintained for a long time. By dawn, the sounds disappeared. The blood chi began to settle, and the spiritual chi flowed smoothly through his meridians, returning to normal. Everything fell into place naturally. After circulating his energy for one more complete cycle, Jiang Hao opened his eyes. At this moment, he could feel his body brimming with a brand new power. Foundation establishment. Everything went relatively smoothly. This makes things much safer. He let out a long sigh of relief and looked at the system panel. After reaching Foundation establishment, the panel had undergone new changes. Name, Jiang Hao. Age, 19. Cultivation, Foundation establishment early stage. Cultivation technique, Tianyin 100 revolutions. Divine abilities, 9 revolutions death substitution, unique. Daily appraisal, can be learned. Blood chi, 36 of 100, can cultivate. Cultivation, 41 of 100, can cultivate. Divine abilities, 1 of 3, cannot obtain. Daily appraisal can be learned now, but there is no reward? Initially, having a divine ability like 9 revolutions death substitution made him think that after reaching Foundation establishment, he would be given a cultivation technique. Although Tianyin 100 revolutions was powerful, its path wasn't long. He needed a more formidable cultivation technique. Forget it. Before going to the spirit medicine garden, I'll learn daily appraisal first. I'll figure out the cultivation technique matter later. It took half a shurchen for Jiang Hao to master daily appraisal. He still wasn't clear on its specific uses. Curious, he walked out of his residence and used appraisal on the wooden hut. He soon received the result. Jiang Hao's small wooden hut, built 3 years ago using Qinglin wood, sturdy and wear-resistant. Built personally by Jiang Hao. It appears solid, but there are many hidden structural flaws inside. It could collapse at any moment. Jiang Hao had no words for that. So it was for appraising information. Having roughly understood its use, he set off for the spirit medicine garden. Pick up bubbles, then help with the maintenance. Find some time to learn about construction and then renovate the hut. Spirit medicine garden. Strength +1. Spirit +1. Cultivation +1. Ordinary spirit sword +1. Jiang Hao walked all the way to the pavilion, absorbing the surrounding bubbles. This time of day was always the most pleasant. After resting for a while, he began helping with the maintenance. Most of those tending the medicine garden were ordinary people. In the past, these ordinary people most feared the inner sect disciples guarding the medicine garden, as the slightest mistake could bring about fatal consequences. Ever since it was changed to Jiang Hao, that kind of danger no longer existed. It was also because of this that others felt Jiang Hao was relatively upright in character. This wasn't a good reputation within a demonic path sect, but he truly wouldn't go around killing ordinary people indiscriminately. Fortunately, it hadn't brought about worse consequences. Jiang Hao did not tell others about his promotion to Foundation establishment. 3 days later, he encountered senior sister Yunruo again. It was only then that others learned he had reached Foundation establishment. Fortunately, it didn't cause any commotion. In the following days, senior sister Yun Ruo often came to find him, just to chat about everyday matters. Occasionally, she would say that within the demonic path, many things were beyond one's control. When she was young, she wanted to be a good person. As her appearances became more and more frequent, Jiang Hao's sense of crisis grew larger and larger. During this period, he extracted and cultivated with all his blood qi and cultivation, consolidating his foundation. 1 month later, Jiang Hao walked out of his residence. Today, the sky was clear for 10,000 li, yet it didn't make one feel warm. Senior sister Yun Ruo hasn't looked for me these past few days. I don't know if it means nothing is wrong, or if it's the precursor to something happening. After pondering for a moment, he walked towards the library pavilion. Over this past month, he had discovered a very serious matter. Senior sister Yun Ruo was a member of Heavenly Joy Pavilion. She possessed a natural seductive charm and was considered a rare beauty within the sect. Yet, no matter how close she got to him, he felt absolutely no reaction. Not only that, even when he tried to stimulate a reaction, there was no effect whatsoever. This made him feel extremely uneasy. Although his heart was set on the Tao and he didn't want to be swayed by romantic feelings, not wanting to was one thing, but being unable to was another. This situation occurred after meeting that woman. The only possibility was that what he had eaten was problematic. After staying in the library pavilion for 2 days, Jiang Hao still couldn't find an answer. However, he unexpectedly saw a purple bubble. Divine Ability Fragment, +1. An unexpected pleasant surprise. With one more Divine Ability Fragment, he could obtain a brand new Divine Ability. Recently, it seems they are taking a census of the disciples. Is something happening? Leaving the library pavilion, Jiang Hao overheard some people talking. They said the sect had suddenly started taking a census of its disciples, as if looking for someone. Looking for a traitor? Jiang Hao's first thought was of senior sister Yun Ruo. After being humiliated by that peerless woman last time, he knew something was going to happen within the sect, but he didn't expect that this happening might drag him in. Senior sister Yun Ruo has been at Foundation Establishment for many years. My chances of winning against her aren't high. Jiang Hao began calculating the worst possible outcome. He hoped he was just overthinking things. The next day, Jiang Hao followed his usual routine, went to the spirit medicine garden, and returned in the evening. He didn't gain much today. He didn't even see many basic bubbles. No one came looking for him to ask for spirit medicine either. Senior sister Yun Ruo didn't show up either, though he did hear some rumors along the way. It was said that there were traitors in the sect, and many had already been discovered. They were currently being purged. Fortunately, I don't have anything here. Otherwise, a traitor would definitely have taken the risk to come over. Returning to his residence, Jiang Hao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He neither wanted to become a traitor, nor did he want to hunt them down. It was best not to offend either side. The Heavenly Sound Sect was a demonic sect, and demonic sects were universally reviled in the cultivation world. One day, the demonic sects would be wiped out. He didn't want to happen to attack a traitor, only to find out the traitor was an important chess piece for the immortal sects, leading to him being targeted by hostility. From then on, it would be difficult to clear his name, and there would be no hope of abandoning the darkness for the light. Shaking his head, Jiang Hao tended to the spirit medicine in his courtyard. They were just ordinary healing spirit medicine, used to add spiritual qi to the courtyard. It would be best if bubbles appeared. Unfortunately, he couldn't apply for good spirit medicine, nor could he afford to buy any. My cultivation is still too weak, but being too conspicuous easily invites trouble. It seems I must keep thinking of ways. Maybe go out for a trip and claim I encountered an opportunity, causing my cultivation to skyrocket? Or perhaps, just never return after leaving? Neither are good ideas. Jiang Hao shook his head. Going out was inherently dangerous. Constantly claiming it was an opportunity wasn't sustainable. And as for betraying the sect, that was even more dangerous. The Heavenly Sound Sect never tolerated traitors. Not long after he joined the Heavenly Sound Sect, he heard about a disciple who had been indoctrinated by an immortal sect. The Heavenly Sound Sect didn't make a move or pay attention at first, but 10 years later, when that disciple went out, they were killed by the Heavenly Sound Sect. Only then did everyone realize that the Heavenly Sound Sect had been lying in wait for 10 years just to purge the traitor. Various thoughts flooded his mind, leaving Jiang Hao feeling chaotic, but in the end, he cast them all aside and focused on tending to the spirit medicine. The urgent priority was to continue growing stronger and possess more hidden cards. He didn't dare to increase his cultivation too quickly, but increasing his blood energy and basic strength wasn't a problem, and he could continue to acquire divine abilities. A short while later, after finishing with the spirit medicine, he intended to return to his room to cultivate. But just as he took a step, he heard someone call out to him from behind. Junior brother. It was a soft female voice. Turning his head, he saw senior sister Yun Ruo's slightly pale face. Seeing her, Jiang Hao thought to himself, oh no. They usually met in the spirit medicine garden. This time, senior sister Yun Ruo had actually come specifically to his residence. She had not come with good intentions. Does senior sister Yun Ruo need spirit medicine? Jiang Hao asked, keeping his tone calm. Can we go inside to talk? Yun Ruo gave Jiang Hao a sweet smile. No, Jiang Hao refused in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out loud, afraid of alerting the enemy. Please, senior sister. He gestured for her to enter. At this moment, he began to be on guard. His intuition told him that senior sister Yun Ruo had issues, and carelessness would surely lead to disaster. Inside the room, the calm expression on senior sister Yun Ruo's face became serious, and she stared at Jiang Hao, saying, Junior brother, can I trust you? After saying this, she immediately shook her head and refuted herself. No, I should say that I can only trust you, junior brother. I have observed you for many years and can be certain that you shouldn't be a member of the Demonic Sect. Hearing this, Jiang Hao was greatly shocked. Was she suspecting that he was an undercover agent? Or was she intentionally trying to trick him into talking? He feigned panic, lowered his head, and explained, Senior sister, I grew up in the Heavenly Sound Sect. I have absolutely no other identity. I know. I just feel that you shouldn't remain in the Demonic Sect, junior brother. Your heart nature isn't suited for this place. You should go to an immortal sect. For example, the Sunset Cloud Sect, which has a 10,000-year legacy and is revered by the world. Fairy Yunruo looked at Jiang Hao and said seriously, I know you are kind-hearted, junior brother, and want to leave the Demonic Sect to join an immortal sect. This is the best opportunity one have found. Whether you can walk from darkness into light depends on this one chance. Son, senior sister, could it be that you are? Jiang Hao spoke with some shock. He was indeed quite surprised. Senior sister Yunruo was really a traitor, and she wanted to drag him down with her. That's right. I am a true disciple of the Sunset Cloud Sect, and I came here this time with a mission. Now that my mission is complete, I was discovered at a critical moment. In my desperation, I had no choice but to ask you for help, junior brother. Help me hide what I have obtained, and then send it to my sect. You will also have a chance to join the Sunset Cloud Sect. The rewards that belong to me will also fall to you. I know I am destined to die this time. Fairy Yunruo displayed a determination to face death unflinchingly. At this moment, she seemed prepared to sacrifice herself, only begging Jiang Hao to take the item out. The look in her eyes moved Jiang Hao. It didn't look like she was lying, but he still didn't want to get involved. What if it was a trap? I know you have concerns, junior brother. How about this? I will leave the item with you. If I die, you can choose whether or not to report me. I have already been discovered, so there is no need to drag you down to die with me. After all, there is no benefit to me in that. As she spoke, Fairy Yunruo took a jade pendant from her person, which was carved with profound symbols. One look, and it was clear it wasn't an ordinary item. Seeing this, Jiang Hao frowned deeply. Accepting it would land him in trouble, but if he didn't, would this senior sister silence him? Would an orthodox disciple be as ruthless as a demonic disciple? This left Jiang Hao unsure, although it was truly fragrant around senior sister Yunruo. Junior brother? Fairy Yunruo bit her lip and looked at Jiang Hao, appearing pitiful. For a moment, Jiang Hao felt that she was trustworthy. Just as he reached out to take the jade pendant, his reason told him that there was definitely something wrong. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration hit him, and he had an idea. He immediately activated his divine ability, Daily Appraisal. Appraisal, senior sister, Yunruo. With the divine ability Daily Appraisal, Jiang Hao had appraised many things. From houses and big mountains to flowers and trees, he had tried them all. The only thing he hadn't appraised was a person. In his subjective consciousness, people could not be appraised. But the situation before him now left him confused, so appraising her was not a bad thing. When the divine ability was activated, invisible symbols flashed across his eyes, and immediately, those symbols reflected the senior sister before him. In just an instant, a piece of information was fed back from the divine ability and projected into his mind. It works. Jiang Hao felt a surge of joy and immediately checked the message fed back by the divine ability. Just as he saw it, his heart tightened, and he felt extreme danger. Yunruo, Foundation Establishment Early Stage, Inner Sect Disciple of Sunset Cloud Sect, Undercover Agent of Heavenly Sound Sect, here to probe for the whereabouts of the Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower. Because her identity is about to be exposed, she urgently needs a scapegoat. Seeing that you do not act like a demonic sect disciple, she has set her sights on you, fitting the criteria for a scapegoat. She is currently using charm technique frantically on you, attempting to influence your mind and make you willingly become a scapegoat. Once she fails, she will kill you to silence you. How vicious. He wasn't like a demonic sect disciple, yet he had to die. Jiang Hao thought, keeping his composure. At this moment, the jade pendant was right there. If he took it, he would die in her stead, and if he didn't take it, he would meet a violent death at her hands. The former meant certain death, while the latter, she had been at the Foundation Establishment stage for many years and must have had many methods. Winning a direct confrontation would be difficult. Jiang Hao's thoughts raced. While thinking, he feigned reaching for the jade pendant. As he was about to touch it, he suddenly looked behind senior sister Yunruo and said in shock, Master. Hearing this, Fairy Yunruo was greatly alarmed and immediately turned her head to look behind her, a spirit sword appearing in her hand. Not only that, but an aura locked onto Jiang Hao, intending to use him as a shield to escape the calamity. The jade pendant had already been brought out. Now, whoever died first would be the one to possess the jade pendant. Junior Martial Uncle, Jiang Hao is a traitor. When Fairy Yunruo wanted to accuse the victim of being the perpetrator and then strike a lethal blow, she suddenly froze. Because there was no one behind her. By the time she reacted, it was too late. At this moment, a dagger struck from her right side with lightning speed. In an instant, Jiang Hao thrust the dagger into Fairy Yunruo's neck. He wanted to kill her on the spot with one strike. Since there was no chance of winning a head-on fight, he would use a sneak attack to bridge the gap. He had no desire to harm others, nor did he intentionally target anyone. He just wanted to live well. Since she wanted to kill him, he would never show the slightest mercy. The moment the dagger pierced in, Fairy Yunruo cast a spell to knock Jiang Hao back. Jiang Hao's decisiveness shocked her. From their interactions these past few days, she had seen Jiang Hao's good-natured character and had assumed he was an innocent and ignorant newcomer who would die in the Heavenly Sound Sect sooner or later. She hadn't expected that beneath his kind appearance, he was actually so ruthless. Facing senior sister Yun Rua's astonishment, Jiang Hao did not speak. Instead, he took out his spirit sword to deliver the finishing blow. She had been struck in a vital spot and her strength was greatly reduced, but she was still far from dead. For a time, swords rose and fell, blades flashed, and sparks flew. Because of her severe injuries and inability to fight back, Yun Rua was knocked flying into the courtyard. She fell to the ground, clutching her neck, and looked at the approaching Jiang Hao in terror, hurriedly saying, "Junior brother, you cannot kill me. The Tianhuan Pavilion Lord values me highly and has been eyeing my body. He hasn't obtained me yet. If you kill me, you will definitely be hated by him." Jiang Hao ignored these words, arrived beside senior sister Yun Rua, and brought his sword down. "I am also a disciple of the Sunset Cloud Sect. There are senior brothers who are infatuated with me. If I die at your hands, they will not let you go. You will certainly be skinned and deboned." One sword strike down, everything returned to silence. For safety's sake, he stabbed a few more times. Looking at the senior sister who was already dead, Jiang Hao felt somewhat uncomfortable. He wasn't used to this kind of thing, but being in a demonic sect, even if he felt uncomfortable, he had to adapt. The cultivation world would not care if you were uncomfortable and give you time to adapt. Standing in place for a long time, confirming that she wouldn't fake her death or have any backup plans, he finally stepped out. He had to go find the master of emotion-severing cliff. That was the master he had bowed to when he first entered the sect. Because he was not a true disciple, he could only listen to the master preach the Tao with other disciples at fixed times. Much of the cultivation process still relied on himself. At first, he didn't want to report this matter, but the more he hid it, the more it would show that he had a problem, especially since she had already been targeted. If he were deemed an accomplice, the consequences would be unimaginable. A short while later, Jiang Hao brought the person to the courtyard. "You killed her." A middle-aged man lowered his head and looked at the fallen fairy Yun Rua, asking softly. This person's complexion was gloomy, his brows filled with coldness, and he looked slightly weathered. He was the master of emotion-severing cliff, Ku Wuchang. "It was this disciple," Jiang Hao said, lowering his head. "Tell me the process." Ku Wuchang looked at Jiang Hao and said in a deep voice. "It was like this." Jiang Hao recounted the general process and then continued. "This disciple originally wanted to try to control the senior sister, but I didn't expect her to fight for her life, so I also started fighting for my life. And then," Ku Wuchang said, as gloomy as ever. "When did you reach Foundation establishment?" "Last month," Jiang Hao answered nervously. "So you chose to sneak attack?" "Yes. You don't need to worry about this matter anymore. If there are subsequent issues, people from the law enforcement hall should come to find you. Remember to cooperate." After speaking, Ku Wuchang took away Fairy Yun Rua. Watching them leave, Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. "I don't know what kind of reaction the Heavenly Joy Pavilion will have. As for the Sunset Cloud Sect, as long as I don't go out, it should be fine. In 10 years, 100 years, they should forget about this person, senior sister Yun Rua. Even if they can't forget, I will have become stronger by then." 7 days had passed since the death of junior sister Yun Rua. During these 7 days, no one had come looking for Jiang Hao again. After this incident, he also realized that the effects of daily appraisal were far more powerful than he had initially imagined. In secret, he had used appraisal on several people, but since he encountered no one particularly special, he decided not to waste further appraisals. It was worth mentioning that he had used his divine ability on himself to appraise his own condition. The general content was, infected with the yang gu of the heaven-exterminating gu poison. Except in the presence of a woman possessing the yin gu, he will be forced into a sage state. Seeing the appraisal result, Jiang Hao sighed. He understood how this gu poison came to be. It was what that woman had made him swallow back then. The recent changes in his body were also due to this gu poison. Whether it was a blessing or a curse was hard to say. Not long ago, junior sister Yun Rua had used a charm technique on him, but it had no effect precisely because of the heaven-exterminating gu poison. Otherwise, it was hard to say what the outcome might have been. Many people in the demonic sects know charm techniques. Perhaps, before his mental fortitude grows stronger, this could be considered a good thing. Beauty, most of the time, is a man's weakness. Jiang Hao had no desire to challenge his own weakness. Once he failed, his life would be in danger. Setting aside the strange thoughts flooding his mind, he opened the door and headed to the spirit medicine garden to busy himself. Going there every day made him a little stronger. This was something he could not afford to interrupt. However, as soon as he stepped out, someone blocked his path. They were 3 young men, each with a higher cultivation than his. They wore stern expressions, with faint traces of evil chi emanating from their bodies. For safety's sake, Jiang Hao activated his divine ability and appraised the man leading them. He was dressed in black, his eyebrows sharp like swords, his facial features well-defined with distinct angles and a 3-dimensional quality. He could be considered handsome. Lu Xingqian, true disciple of the vast Heaven Sect, born with dragon baleful chi, late-stage golden core cultivation, currently bored and acting as an undercover agent in the Heavenly Sound Sect's law enforcement hall. Approaching you is to temporarily appease the Heavenly Joy Pavilion's anger. Seeing the feedback from his divine ability, a huge wave surged in Jiang Hao's heart. Wasn't the vast Heaven Sect renowned as the strongest immortal sect? Why would someone like that come to the Heavenly Sound Sect as an undercover agent, just out of boredom? His mind reeled with shock for a moment before he lowered his head to greet the 3 senior brothers. "We are from the law enforcement hall. We've come regarding the incident 7 days ago. We have a few questions for you, and we also need to inform you of some follow-up developments." Lu Xingchen said expressionlessly as he looked at Jiang Hao. Please go ahead, senior brother, Jiang Hao replied, his mind racing through possible scenarios while maintaining a calm exterior. The words Heavenly Joy Pavilion's anger filled him with worry. Was junior sister Yunruo killed by you? Lu Xingchen asked. Yes, Jiang Hao nodded. Why did you take action? Lu Xingchen continued. She betrayed the sect and tried to pull me into betrayal with her. I intended to refuse and subdue her, but I ended up accidentally killing her. Jiang Hao repeated the same explanation he had given before. She was from the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. The emotion-severing cliff has no jurisdiction over her. Lu Xingchen stared at Jiang Hao, his voice filled with indifference. This time, you violated sect regulations by killing a Heavenly Joy Pavilion disciple. Considering there were extenuating circumstances, you were stripped of 5 years' worth of cultivation resources and must pay 1,000 spirit stones to the Heavenly Joy Pavilion as compensation within 3 months. Additionally, since Yunruo was a sect traitor and you were the last person she contacted, to prevent the possibility of a sacrificial pawn protecting the mastermind, you are not allowed to leave the sect during this period. You must cooperate with our investigation. If you leave without our knowledge, you will be treated as a sect traitor. We will notify you when the investigation concludes. Hearing this, Jiang Hao stood frozen in place, somewhat unable to believe it. He received no credit, only blame. Cooperating with the investigation was one thing, but having to compensate the Heavenly Joy Pavilion with 1,000 spirit stones? As an inner sect disciple, during his chi refining days, he only received 10 spirit stones a month. Where would he get 1,000? Is this just typical of a demonic sect? This approach is purely for the Heavenly Joy Pavilion's benefit. Seeing Jiang Hao unresponsive, the disciple beside him spoke coldly. Do you have any questions? Jiang Hao snapped back to reality, lowered his head, and said softly, no. Afterwards, the three from the law enforcement hall said a few more inconsequential things before turning and leaving. Watching the three disappear from sight, Jiang Hao let out a heavy sigh. Is the emotion-severing cliff too weak, or am I just too insignificant? This is somewhat bullying. 1,000 spirit stones. There is simply no way to get them in 3 months. What happens if I don't pay? Will the people from Heavenly Joy Pavilion come after me? I am 19 now and have successfully established my foundation. That is considered quite rare. I wonder if the emotion-severing cliff will protect me. Carrying these myriad thoughts, Jiang Hao arrived at the spirit medicine garden. Now, he not only had to improve his cultivation, but also find a way to earn spirit stones. At this moment, he deeply felt the truth of the saying that beautiful women bring disaster. Even killing one couldn't allow him to escape this calamity. With his current cultivation level, resistance was simply impossible. The law enforcer presiding over this matter had a late-stage golden core cultivation. As an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, even 100 of him wouldn't be enough for the other party to handle with one hand. As for exposing the other party as an undercover agent, that would truly be seeking death. In the cultivation world, cultivation levels are divided into chi refining, foundation establishment, golden core, primordial spirit, spirit refining, and returning to void. Jiang Hao hadn't encountered the subsequent stages yet and didn't know the specific realms. At the highest point of the Heavenly Sound Sect, 100 Flowers Lake, on the central island, Hong Yuye sat upright in the pavilion, gazing absent-mindedly at the lake. A breeze stirred, and a white figure landed behind Hong Yuye, bowing respectfully. Sect Master. Hearing this, Hong Yuye did not turn around, only slowly asking, what is it? I have compiled a list of some suspicious disciples, as well as a list of traitors. I would like the Sect Master to decide on the matter, Baiji said, then presented the list in her hand. It contained detailed records, origins, cultivation levels, points of suspicion. Taking the list, Hong Yuye lowered her gaze and opened it. The names that met her eyes were all unfamiliar. There were undercover agents, traitors, and suspicious individuals. With a casual glance, her gaze lingered on the last entry. Jiang Hao, inner sect disciple of Emotion-Severing Cliff, residing by the stream at the foot of Emotion-Severing Cliff, newly advanced to early-stage foundation establishment. Below Emotion-Severing Cliff, Jiang Hao. Hong Yuye's gaze lingered on this name for a moment. Then she closed the list and said, there is no one outstanding. Most are outer sect disciples. Among the inner sect disciples, there are only a very small number of traitors and suspects. Their status is not high. Other true disciples and elder deacons need further investigation, which will take some time, Baiji said hurriedly. Not discovering a single important figure defecting this time made her both relieved and worried. Logically, since the Sect Master had started to suspect, it shouldn't be this clean. But for some reason, it couldn't be found in a short time. Some people cannot be found out. Without enough temptation, they will just keep lurking, Hong Yuye said in a calm voice. She opened the list again, looked at the last name, Jiang Hao, and asked as if casually, what is the background of Jiang Hao from Emotion-Severing Cliff? His background is actually very clean. He was sold to the sect when he was young, and his talent is upper middle. It's just that he recently happened to get involved with a traitor from Heavenly Joy Pavilion. Plus, his cultivation progress is a bit strange. With upper middle talent, his cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds after a trip out a few years ago. He claimed to have eaten a strange fruit and obtained a fortuitous encounter. Some time ago, he even directly achieved a foundation establishment breakthrough. Normally, this wouldn't be anything, but a traitor happened to die at his hands. There is a certain possibility that a Heavenly Joy Pavilion disciple incited him to defect and then willingly died at his hands, Baiji answered earnestly. What about his usual behavior? Hong Yuye asked expressionlessly. He doesn't make enemies, has a gentle personality, and never even speaks harshly to ordinary people. He looks somewhat out of place with the sect, Bai Ji said, carefully choosing her words. After the words fell, Hong Yuye did not speak, and no emotion overflowed from her eyes. Waiting for a moment, Bai Ji had to speak again. The person Jiang Hao killed was from Heavenly Joy Pavilion, naturally charming. It is very likely they used this to incite him to defect. Although there is no evidence, the suspicion is high. Hearing this, Hong Yuye suddenly said, then test him, and while you're at it, use him to test those still hiding in the shadows. This subordinate does not understand the Sect Master's meaning. Bai Ji lowered her head, slightly confused. A moment later, she felt a glimmer of light enter her vision. Looking up, a seed had landed in front of her. It was half black and half white, looking rather ordinary after the light faded, about the size of a quail egg. Examining it for a moment, Bai Ji's expression changed drastically. This is... Before her voice could fully fade, Hong Yuye said with a playful laugh, many people came for this thing. You go and give it to that person below a motion-severing cliff. Let him plan it carefully. It won't be long before those hiding in the shadows all surface. Then, what if that person runs away with it? Bai Ji's eyes were filled with horror. Then isn't that your business? Hong Yuye turned to look at Bai Ji and said expressionlessly. Facing such a gaze, Bai Ji was fearful inside and dared not ask again. This subordinate will go and do it immediately. Bai Ji left Hundred Flowers Lake. Her previous fear and timidity swept away, becoming confident, noble, and powerful. She walked through the mountains and forests. Whether they were protectors or elders, everyone who met her had to lower their heads and bow, showing 3 parts of awe. Not only because she was the person acting on behalf of the sect, but also because she herself was powerful. But at this moment, she was quite confused. Especially looking at the seed in her hand, she was even more puzzled. Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower Seed. Is it worth using this kind of thing to test an inner sect disciple and draw out other traitors? It is definitely not worth it. The Sect Master's arrangement must have some deeper meaning. Is it because of this person's problem, or because there is an incredible existence among the traitors? Sighing, Bai Ji stopped thinking about it. The Sect Master's emergence from seclusion this time was unusual, suddenly asking about traitors. Now she had given the Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower Seed. Something incredible must have happened. Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower. It is said to be the reason for the Sect Master's power. Looking at the seed in her hand, it would be dishonest to say Bai Ji was not tempted. As long as she obtained this seed, she might soar into the sky in the future. Thinking of this, Bai Ji suddenly shuddered, cold sweat streaming down. Only then did she realize that when the Sect Master took out the Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower Seed, the first person she wanted to test was herself. In the end, she wanted to hand over the seed as soon as possible. Once she had any superfluous thoughts, she might be doomed forever. But how to reasonably hand the seed to an ordinary inner sect disciple was a bit troublesome. Strength +1, Spirit +1, Cultivation +1, Qi and Blood +1, Spirit Sword +1. Jiang Hao walked in the Spirit Medicine Garden, bubbles flying over little by little. There was more blue than before. The harvest today is not bad, but it's a pity I can't pick up spirit stones. 1,000 in debt weighed on him, which was not easy. Although he had quite a few cheap spirit swords and medicinal pills, he could only sell a little. Too many would be abnormal. If he could pick up good medicinal pills, he could also solve the problem. So far, he hadn't seen any very good medicinal pills. Now I only have 168 spirit stones. Selling a few spirit swords and medicinal pills will barely make it 200, still 800 short. It seems I need to go and accept some sect tasks. Noon. After finishing the work in the Spirit Medicine Garden, Jiang Hao went straight to the foot of Law Enforcement Peak, the place where the sect issued tasks. Yo, junior brother Jiang. It's been a long time since I've seen you come here. Rarely do I see you come out of the Spirit Medicine Garden. A sudden laugh rang out behind Jiang Hao. Looking back, it was a slightly delicate-looking man. He was following a man and a woman. He was not old, but his cultivation was not bad. Senior brother Qi. Jiang Hao turned and greeted him politely. Qi Yang, an inner sect disciple of Thunderfire Peak, currently at the Foundation Establishment early stage of cultivation. He was a companion of Jiang Hao's back when Jiang Hao was still an outer sect disciple. They lived under the same roof, and their relationship was quite good. However, since the two went to different main peaks, they rarely met. You've reached Foundation Establishment? So fast, Qi Yang exclaimed suddenly as he approached Jiang Hao. The two people beside him also felt surprised. Such a young Foundation Establishment cultivator. I was lucky enough to reach Foundation Establishment, Jiang Hao smiled and said. This was the trouble with not having a cultivation technique for concealment. His cultivation was seen through immediately. He needed to find a way to get one, but the urgent priority was to earn enough spirit stones, 1,000 of them. No matter how unwilling he was, he had to fulfill the compensation. Otherwise, Heavenly Joy Pavilion might take action, which would truly be a catastrophic disaster. Emotion-severing cliff might not be able to protect him. He couldn't understand. Was it really worth it for Heavenly Joy Pavilion to go to such lengths for an intersect traitor? Was it really, as Senior Sister Yun Ruo said, that someone just wanted her body? Regarding this, Jiang Hao was skeptical. After all, Senior Sister Yun Ruo wasn't beautiful to that extent. Compared to the one who had tried to harm him, she was far inferior. Senior brother, Senior Sister, let me introduce you. This is my junior brother, Jiang Hao, who lived under the same roof as me when I was still in the outer sect, Qi Yang said, making the introduction. It is truly rare for two excellent disciples to emerge from the same place. The man beside him revealed a kind smile and said, My name is Su Feng. and the one beside me is my junior sister, Liang Yu. Senior brother Su, senior sister Liang. Jiang Hao bowed his head in greeting. By the way, which peak is junior brother from? Liang Yu asked with a smile. Both of them intended to befriend Jiang Hao. Such a young foundation establishment cultivator was already a genius. Emotion-severing cliff, Jiang Hao replied. Upon hearing this, both Su Feng and Liang Yu were startled. Emotion-severing cliff? Does junior brother know who killed Yun Ruo of Heavenly Joy Pavilion? Su Feng asked tentatively. This sudden question made it difficult for Jiang Hao to answer, but he still opened his mouth and said, that would be me. At that moment, not only Su Feng and Liang Yu, but even Qi Yang was shocked. Especially the two, Su Feng and his partner, who even intentionally distanced themselves. After chatting for a couple more sentences, Su Feng took his people and left the spot. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. Perhaps Heavenly Joy Pavilion wasn't someone to be trifled with. He had no intention of having too many friendships with others, especially in the Demonic Sect, where most relationships were based on mutual utilization. However, he was clearly eliminating a threat for the sect, so why did it feel like he was the center of the sect? Everyone avoided him like the plague. In a corner, Su Feng looked at Qi Yang and asked curiously, Junior brother Qi, you are familiar with junior brother Jiang. Do you know how his talent is? After a moment of thought, Qi Yang finally spoke. It seems to be upper middle. Upper middle. Hearing this, Liang Yu looked surprised. How old is he? About 19, 2 years younger than me. Qi Yang answered truthfully. Upper middle aptitude, 19 years old. How did he reach foundation establishment? Su Feng asked the question he most wanted to know. Because he had a fortuitous encounter, his cultivation surged. His foundation establishment should also be related to that encounter. Qi Yang said with a curious face. Do senior brother and senior sister think there is something wrong? Knowing the specifics, Su Feng and Liang Yu had made up their minds. At this moment, when they discussed Jiang Hao again, there was a bit more disdain in their eyes. Junior brother, it is better not to get too close to him in the future. Su Feng looked in the direction Jiang Hao had left and said softly. I was curious at first why emotion-severing cliff wouldn't fully protect him. It turns out he advanced by relying on a fortuitous encounter, which means the path ahead for him will not be easy. He didn't have much value. He offended Heavenly Joy Pavilion. Even if he was fine now, something would definitely go wrong in the future. So, junior brother, don't get too close to him. It will make things difficult for Master. Initially, Su Feng did want to befriend Jiang Hao. Even knowing that Jiang Hao had offended Heavenly Joy Pavilion, he had a sliver of that thought. Because such a young foundation establishment cultivator was a genuine genius. Geniuses could sometimes break through all obstacles. But upon learning that the other party only advanced through a fortuitous encounter, he no longer had any intention of befriending him. He was even slightly disdainful. Who wasn't a foundation establishment cultivator anyway? Qi Yang looked in the direction Jiang Hao had left and remained silent. After walking around, Jiang Hao discovered that the high-paying tasks either required going out or had extremely high requirements. With his current strength and limitations, he could only do some small tasks. However, he also discovered that alchemy, forging, and talisman making were the most profitable. Unfortunately, he couldn't do any of them. Should he learn one? Alchemy and forging were out of the question. Not only was it hard to get started, but he didn't have enough spirit stones to get the pill formula or the methods for forging. Otherwise, he had knowledge of spirit medicine, which could count as some foundation. If alchemy and forging wouldn't work, that only left talisman making. It was simple to get started, and the methods could be bought anywhere. I can buy some materials and go back to try it. Having made his decision, Jiang Hao planned to take a simple task to earn some spirit stones. So far, the only way was to accumulate little by little. Although it seemed unreachable, he couldn't waste time. As for a solution, he could think while doing tasks. Being overly ambitious would only make it harder to succeed. In the end, he accepted the task of looking after the spirit medicine, the Jingyang flower. 7 days, 20 spirit stones. It was not a low reward, but the requirements were not low either. Fortunately, Jiang Hao had been in the spirit medicine garden for many years and met the requirements. This task came from White Moon Lake. It was where geniuses gathered and was the territory under the jurisdiction of the sect protecting elder. He had never seen this elder before. Teaching elders, sect protecting elders, peak masters, pavilion masters, he basically never saw these high-level figures. He rarely even saw his own master, the master of emotion-severing cliff, let alone other elders. First, buy some materials for talisman making and the instructions, then go over and see the situation. The Jingyang flower is said to be a holy medicine. I wonder if there will be any purple bubbles if I look after it. If the bubbles could produce spirit stones, he wouldn't have to worry about this. White Moon Lake. Located at a higher elevation within the Heavenly Sound Sect, the spiritual chi here was dense, a notch higher than in other places. Joining this place meant that one's speed of cultivation would also be faster than other main branches. Geniuses gathered here, and they rarely took on disciples. Emotion-severing cliff was different from here. Its location was lower, the threshold was slightly lower, and although there were many people, few were famous. I'm here. After buying the talisman-making tools, Jiang Hao arrived here, feeling quite emotional. If he hadn't provoked Heavenly Joy Pavilion, he would have felt that emotion-severing cliff was actually quite good. Shaking his head, he found the guard and explained his purpose. Looking after the Jingyang flower, the fairy on guard looked at Jiang Hao, scrutinized him carefully, and said, Do you have experience in this area? I am Jiang Hao, an inner sect disciple of Emotion-Severing Cliff. I have been working in the spirit medicine garden at Emotion-Severing Cliff for a few years, Jiang Hao said truthfully. Then come with me. The fairy on guard led the way. Let me remind you, the Jingyang flower is about to bloom, which is why it needs care. This is not an easy job. If you don't do it well, you will be punished, the fairy with a simple hair bun kindly reminded him. Thank you for the reminder, senior sister. I understand, Jiang Hao said, looking at her and thanking her. This senior sister had clear eyes. She couldn't be considered very beautiful, but she was somewhat pleasant to look at. At least she was much more natural than senior sister Yunruo. She was neither cold nor feigned closeness. She seemed rather innocent. As expected, not everyone in the demonic sect looked fierce and menacing. As for her true personality, Jiang Hao couldn't quite figure it out. One can know a person's face, but not their heart. My surname is Zhou, and my name is Zhou Chan. Since you've accepted this task, you'll need to come for the next few days. Just look for me when you arrive, and I'll bring you in, Zhou Chan said, leading Jiang Hao into a courtyard. Under senior sister Zhou's guidance, Jiang Hao met the person managing the courtyard. Elder Qinshu was a beautiful middle-aged woman, wearing a green immortal dress that reached the floor, cinched at the waist with a light blue belt, and draped in a light gauze coat. Her expression was impassive, looking extremely cold. She was the deacon elder of White Moon Lake. It was as if someone owed her money, Jiang Hao muttered to himself. He would never dare say such things out loud. A short while later, Jiang Hao saw a white spirit medicine occupying a large plot of land, its surroundings seemingly covered in white frost. At the edge of the white frost, there was a crimson gourd, from which a scorching aura emanated. There is magma inside the gourd. What you need to do is to pour the magma onto the edge of the white frost every half-hour after noon, 6 times a day. Elder Qinshu looked at Jiang Hao and continued. It is getting late today. Come tomorrow to start your duties. Yes. Respectfully acknowledging, Jiang Hao retreated. Returning to his residence, he checked his panel. Name, Jiang Hao. Age, 19. Cultivation, Foundation Establishment Early Stage. Cultivation Technique, Tianyin 100 Revolutions. Divine Ability, 9 Revolutions Death Substitution, Unique. Daily Appraisal. Vitality, 16 of 100, can be cultivated. Cultivation, 20 of 100, can be cultivated. Divine Abilities, 2 of 3, cannot be obtained. Although it's small, it's growing fast. Perhaps it won't be long before I can advance to the Foundation Establishment Middle Stage. It's just that the 1,000 spirit stones weighing on me is quite troublesome. I can only see if I can earn spirit stones from talisman making. Talisman making, alchemy, forging. Talisman making had the lowest threshold, but it was also the cheapest, unless one could make intermediate or advanced talismans. Otherwise, earning 1,000 spirit stones, even by drawing day and night, might not be enough. The fastest way to get spirit stones was still alchemy, but the threshold was high, the investment was large, and it was time-consuming. In the room, Jiang Hao took out the newly purchased complete guide to talisman making and started reading. It recorded 12 types of talismans. The simplest was the speed talisman, which could increase speed. There were also the mind-clearing talisman and the fire talisman. These 3 were all talismans needed for chi refining. Those at Foundation Establishment could use sword flight, had consolidated minds, and could cast spells at will. So under normal circumstances, they did not need these low-effect talismans. However, these 3 talismans were also the best for practice. As for the selling price, being able to sell 3 of them for 1 spirit stone would be thanking the heavens. It would probably take 6. Relying on this wouldn't make big money. He needed to go further. After reading the method for making the speed talisman, Jiang Hao sat cross-legged to the side, calmed his mind, and after a long while, reached his optimal state. Only then did he pick up the talisman brush, dip it in cinnabar, and begin talisman making. Every stroke was even and powerful, flowing like clouds and water, with spiritual chi manifesting on the talisman paper. After a short while, the final stroke slowly landed. The talisman flashed with a faint light before returning to normal. It's done. It's that easy. Thinking carefully, he was at Foundation Establishment making chi refining talismans. If he kept failing, that would be the problem. For the entire night, Jiang Hao practiced the speed talisman, the mind-clearing talisman, and the fire talisman. He didn't stop talisman making until all the materials were exhausted. 31 in total. After deducting the 2 spirit stones for costs, I can earn 3 spirit stones. 3 stones a night, 90 a month, and only 270 in 3 months. If I add the daytime, that would be 540. Jiang Hao calculated carefully and found that it wasn't hopeless to scrape together 1,000 spirit stones. As long as Heavenly Joy Pavilion didn't do anything in these 3 months, he should be able to hand over 1,000 spirit stones within the deadline. However, after going to sell them, he discovered that his thinking was too naive. These talismans were indeed 6 for 1 spirit stone, but there was a price without a market. After displaying them for a long time, he only got 1 spirit stone. He couldn't even break even. Sighing, Jiang Hao had no choice but to buy materials again. Tonight, he would try practicing talismans needed for Foundation Establishment. Afterward, he headed to White Moon Lake again. Starting today, he had to look after the Jingyang flower. Arriving at White Moon Lake once again, the person leading the way was still senior sister Zhou. For half a day, Jiang Hao spent his time pouring magma at the scheduled times. He had expected something to happen when he poured it on, but to his surprise, it was just like watering plants. It sank into the soil and alleviated the frost. It seemed the soil here was not simple either. In the following days, Jiang Hao repeated the same routine. At night, he did talisman making. In the morning, he went to the spirit medicine garden to help out, and stopped by the market to sell talismans, and at noon he began to look after the pure yang flower. It was a repetitive cycle. It is worth mentioning that after he began looking after the pure yang flower, he was able to obtain blue bubbles every day. Cultivation +1. Blood chi +1. Meanwhile, in the spirit medicine garden, most of the bubbles were white or green. Strength +1. Spirit +1. Chi solidification pill +1. His harvest was much greater than before, especially his cultivation and blood chi, which increased every day. If he kept looking after the pure yang flower, he would be able to start advancing to the middle stage of foundation establishment in less than 3 months, but he would need to find a way to hide his cultivation. During this time, to avoid any mistakes, he would appraise the pure yang flower. Usually, the answer was the same. Pure yang flower, a sacred medicine for healing, the main ingredient for Ming Yang pills, nearing maturity, in good condition. Occasionally, there would be a different answer. Pure yang flower, a sacred medicine for healing, the main ingredient for Ming Yang pills, nearing maturity, in poor condition, too cold, needs more magma poured on it. Jiang Hao naturally didn't know how much more was needed, so when he encountered this, he could only add a tiny bit more. He hoped it would be useful. He regretted it afterward, because if a problem arose, it would be his fault. Fortunately, no problems ever arose. Talisman making, however, was not smooth. Basic talismans were useless, so he started making better ones, such as the mind-calming talisman, which could allow a foundation establishment cultivator to be in a better state while they cultivate. The effect was average, so it was worth 5 spirit stones. Regrettably, it took him 2 days to successfully make one, which wasn't even enough to cover his costs. Besides the mind-calming talisman, there was also the blazing fire talisman. Its power couldn't compare to foundation establishment, but it was still decent, and one sold for 3 spirit stones. Unfortunately, although it was cheaper, the difficulty was the same as the mind-calming talisman. The third type was the divine sword talisman. It sounded impressive, but it actually just made sword flight faster. It was also 5 spirit stones each. The difficulty was slightly higher. In 6 days, talisman making only allowed him to break even, but fortunately, he still had plenty of time. As long as he could increase his success rate in the future, he would be guaranteed a profit, but he wouldn't have time to cultivate. But since he could pick up cultivation every day, cultivating a little less didn't have much of an impact. For others, the impact would be significant. Therefore, only those with good talent would engage in alchemy and talisman making. If one's talent was not good enough, it was basically a waste of time cultivating. Being in the demonic sect without sufficient cultivation, even knowing alchemy, was not safe. Junior brother Jiang, you come at the same time every day, Zhou Chan said to Jiang Hao with a smile. I dare not be negligent. Jiang Hao nodded almost imperceptibly. Having come here several times, this senior sister Zhou was quite friendly and even a bit informal. Elder Qinshu is in a bad mood today, so you had better be careful. Tomorrow is the last day, so don't let anything go wrong, Zhou Chan kindly reminded him on the way. Jiang Hao quickly nodded. Thank you for the reminder, senior sister. This reminder was insignificant to senior sister Zhou, but it was quite important to him. Knowing the elder's mood would help him handle things a bit better. After announcing himself in front of the courtyard, Jiang Hao went to the pure yang flower area alone. But when he arrived, he looked slightly stunned. He had expected to just come over and pick up blue bubbles, but today there were no blue bubbles. Instead, a purple bubble was floating quietly beside the pure yang flower. It's actually purple. That feels a bit strange. Jiang Hao had been helping in the spirit medicine garden for a long time and had never seen a purple bubble appear midway. Better bubbles only appeared at the very beginning or the very end. The end. Thinking of this, Jiang Hao activated his divine ability to perform an appraisal. As expected, pure yang flower, a sacred medicine for healing, the main ingredient for Ming Yang pills, now mature. The pure yang flower was different from other spirit medicines. It didn't have the concept of age. Once it matured, it had to be harvested, otherwise, it would wither and regrow, waiting for the next maturity. It was said that this would take a long time. Although he didn't understand why it had matured early, Jiang Hao dared not delay. After collecting the purple bubble, he hurried to request an audience with Elder Qinshu. At this moment, the bubble merged into his body. Divine Ability Fragment, +1. Seeing this, Jiang Hao quickly checked his panel. Divine Abilities, 3 of 3, available to obtain. Finally, I am about to welcome another divine ability. Suppressing the urge to obtain it right there, he arrived in front of the courtyard and spoke softly. Junior Jiang Hao has an important matter to report. The gate opened, and Elder Qinshu looked slightly displeased. What is it? As expected, she was in a bad mood. Jiang Hao sighed. If the matter hadn't been so significant, he wouldn't have wanted to come and court trouble. He organized his words before lowering his head and saying, Junior came to look after the pure yang flower today and discovered something amiss. It seems to be signs of maturity, so? Before he could finish speaking, Elder Qinshu disappeared from where she stood. Seeing this, Jiang Hao knew that Elder Qinshu also dared not be negligent, and he immediately stepped toward the direction of the pure yang flower. A short while later, Jiang Hao saw Elder Qinshu harvesting the pure yang flower. He also breathed a sigh of relief. This task could be considered finished, and it had been a close call without any real danger. The harvest was naturally much greater than expected. 20 spirit stones were nothing. The real harvest was the divine ability fragment. You actually have some capability, Elder Qinshu said, putting away the pure yang flower and praising Jiang Hao. It was just a guess. I still relied on Elder Qinshu, Jiang Hao complimented. Your capability is unquestionable. Let's go. I will take you to meet the owner of this flower. Remember to be sharp. Perhaps you might gain something. Elder Qinshu said seriously. Was he going to meet a guardian elder? Meeting such a figure for the first time, Jiang Hao felt a bit uneasy. By the side of White Moon Lake, Jiang Hao followed behind Elder Qinshu. During this, he glanced at the calm lake surface and discovered that the spiritual qi here was dense. If one were to cultivate here, the results would surely be twice as effective with half the effort. Emotion-severing cliff was far inferior to this place. A short while later, they arrived at a courtyard by the lake. This courtyard gave Jiang Hao a strange feeling, as if it were a sleeping vicious beast, yet also as if it were a paradise on earth. Come in. A sudden voice came from within, calm, yet carrying authority. Upon entering the courtyard, Jiang Hao saw an exquisitely beautiful woman dressed in white. She had a simple hair bun and sat upright in the pavilion, looking dignified and noble. Her powerful aura left Jiang Hao somewhat shaken. Under Elder Qinshu's reminder, he quickly bowed. Junior Jiang Hao pays respects to the elder. At this moment, Elder Qinshu took out the pure yang flower and explained the reason. Is that so? Baiji looked at Jiang Hao with a smile. It seems you have some ability. It just so happens that I have another matter that needs to be handed over to you. If you handle it well, there will naturally be benefits for you. An empty promise, Jiang Hao sighed in his heart. If you don't handle it well, you should know what you will face, Baiji smiled and said. Yes, Jiang Hao nodded. Glancing at this elder, Jiang Hao felt only helplessness and absurdity. Both times he had performed meritorious service, yet both times he had been threatened. This demonic sect did not reason at all. A short while later, Jiang Hao walked out of the courtyard holding a seed. Afterward, senior sister Zhou Chan escorted him away from White Moon Lake. What surprised him was this elder's identity. One of the 4 great guardian elders, Elder Baiji, the acting sect leader of the Heavenly Sound Sect, who possessed absolute power over life and death. When he heard this from senior sister Zhou, Jiang Hao found it somewhat unbelievable. So the exquisitely beautiful elder he had just seen was the acting sect leader of the Demonic Sect, who stood above 10,000 people, second only to one. Since when did he have the luck to meet such a person? However, this caretaking task was indeed quite good, because Elder Qinshu gave him 40 spirit stones, directly doubled. As for the seed, it was puzzling. When Elder Baiji gave him the seed, she only told him to plant it. She didn't mention any precautions, nor did she say what results were needed. There were no rules for handling it well or poorly. This was somewhat unusual. As the acting sect leader, why would she ask me to plant this seed? There should be a pile of people more capable than me. There is a problem. Asking me to plant this must have some other purpose. Having doubts, Jiang Hao wanted to use appraisal on the seed to see what exactly it was. But it would have to wait until tomorrow. Daily appraisal. It really was a daily appraisal. As such, he could only wait for tomorrow. Fortunately, in the face of the exquisitely beautiful Elder Baiji, his heart remained clear as water. But he couldn't bring himself to be happy. He didn't know when this goo poison could be broken. As for the woman who planted the goo, it was better not to meet her. The risk was too high. In the afternoon, Jiang Hao returned to his residence. He meditated for a moment and opened his panel. Name, Jiang Hao. Age, 19. Cultivation, Foundation Establishment Early Stage. Cultivation Technique, Tianyin 100 Revolutions. Divine Ability, 9 Revolutions Death Substitution, Unique. Daily Appraisal, Qi and Blood, 27 of 100, can cultivate. Cultivation, 32 of 100, can cultivate. Divine Abilities, 3 of 3, can acquire. His Qi and Blood and cultivation had increased quite a bit, and he was closer to 100. The most important thing was the last line. His divine ability was full and could be acquired. After observing the surrounding situation, Jiang Hao chose to acquire it. In just an instant, the divine ability count regressed from 3 to 0. And within his body, a light appeared. Something was forming. There was no pain. Instead, it made him feel comfortable, cool, and clear-headed. Feeling the changes, Jiang Hao knew this was the effect brought about by the divine ability. Because when he acquired daily appraisal, it was not this feeling. A moment later, the light disappeared, and that feeling of comfort faded along with it. Observing the divine ability row again, he discovered that a new divine ability had appeared. Divine ability, 9 Revolutions Death Substitution, Unique. Daily appraisal, Clear Mind and Pure Heart. Clear Mind and Pure Heart. Jiang Hao could sense the existence of the divine ability, but he did not know its specific function. Let's give it a try. After thinking for a moment, he activated the divine ability directly. In an instant, he felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over his entire body, leaving him feeling icy cold and transparent. Within a breath, this coldness reached deep into his mind. A sense of clarity appeared in his consciousness, as if the filth in his brain had been completely cleared away. His thinking was bright, as if ascending to a peak. This process surprised Jiang Hao, and it was even incomparably comfortable. Looking around again, everything became clear, and he could even observe fine details. It was as if he couldn't wait to absorb something brand new. Thinking of this, he took out his talisman-making book. When he looked at the mind-calming talisman again, he had a brand new realization. Sparks of realization burst forth in his mind. At this moment, he did not need to calm his mind to directly engage in talisman-making. A short while later, he stood before the table. He picked up the talisman brush, dipped it in cinnabar, and began talisman-making. The talisman brush moved in his hand like flowing clouds and streaming water, following his every whim. Every stroke and every line seemed as if aided by the divine. After a long time, Jiang Hao made the final stroke. A light flashed, and then it returned to calm. The talisman was complete. This divine ability came just in time. Putting down the brush, Jiang Hao looked delighted. He spent the entire night engaged in talisman making. This time, out of 10 sets of materials, he successfully created 5. 2 mind-calming talismans, 2 divine sword talismans, and 1 blazing fire talisman. After deducting costs, he could still earn over a dozen spirit stones. This was just the beginning. His success rate would only get higher and higher. Within 2 months, he might be able to gather 1,000 spirit stones. It's a good thing, but it is a bit mentally draining. Jiang Hao sat before the balcony, looking quite exhausted at the sunrise of the early morning. At this moment, he took out the seed. Today was exactly the day he could use appraisal.